Well, good evening, everybody. So nice to be with you. Happy New Year. Senator Mona Das here from the 47th District. So proud to be the senator and represent this amazing, vibrant community of Kent, Covington, Auburn, and a little bit of Renton and a very small bit of Black Diamond. It is my absolute honor to be going to my fourth session. I can't believe it. It's gone so fast. So it's my extreme honor to represent our extremely amazing, diverse communities of Kent, Covington, Auburn, Renton, and Black Diamond in the legislature this year. We are gearing up for what is going to be a very fast and furious 60-day session. So we will pass all the laws and all the bills in this very short 60-day session. So every other year, we either have a 60-day session or we have a 105-day session, which we call short session and long session. So this year is our short 60-day session. It will go so fast. We start on Monday, January 10th. So I'm very excited to kick things off tonight with our very first town hall of 2022. Again, Happy New Year to all of you. I want to just give you a little preview of what I've been working on, share with you some of the priorities that I've heard from the community, and get your questions and thoughts. And at any time, please comment on this video with your questions and your comments. And our staff will be keeping eye on all of the questions that you're adding to the queue. I'll be answering some live questions. Some community members have pre-submitted some additional questions, which we've also seen some questions on our Facebook page, which we want to answer tonight. And if for whatever reason we run out of time and we don't get to your question or comment today, we will definitely follow up with you and make sure we get in touch. We are excited to hear from you. As many of you know, I'm very open and very available. So, we're here to make sure that you get your questions answered and that the community really feels like they have their voice in Olympia as well. We are going to be virtual for at least the first 2 weeks. So our committee hearings will be virtual all year or all session for 60 days. And every 2 weeks, we're going to evaluate whether or not we feel safe and comfortable to come to Olympia. Right now with the Omicron variant being, they're just very rampant, we aren't comfortable at the moment. So we want to just make sure, we can go there safely as legislators to do our work. Last year, we were able to pass over 300 bills. I think it was 334 bills remotely. So we know we can do it. We hope that we can be in person because we would like to be, in Olympia doing the work of the state of Washington in person. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we can do that. And I will let you know that I am doubly vaxxed. Well, singly because I did Johnson & Johnson, but vaccinated and boosted. And I hope that all of you are too. I do believe that vaccine saves lives. And I hope that you, we can put a link in the chat for where to find a vaccine in our community and in our country. So if you're watching from another state. So really quick, I want to go over some of the exciting things that we've accomplished last session, which we are building on for 2022. That was my first session as the caucus vice chair. So the majority caucus is the caucus that I'm part of, the Democratic caucus. And I was honored to be chosen by my colleagues as the Senate vice chair, which means that I'm in the leadership role, which means I'm at the table when very important decisions are made as a caucus. We really focused on COVID recovery, especially for our small businesses. Shout out to the great small businesses in our community that really kept our community going, especially the ones that are focused on housing our community members, making sure our community members had food on their tables for their community and for their families. So thank you so much. I really worked closely with Living Well Kent. So I want to give them a great shout out for all the great work that Living Well Kent is doing to make sure our community members are fed. Thank you so much. We worked really hard last year on the Working Families Tax Credit, which means that starting in 2023, more than 400,000 households with low and moderate income across the state will get an annual financial boost of $300 for a single person and $1,200 for a family of four or more through this tax credit. It's a really wonderful program. We've been working on it for years, and this past year, we were able to fund the program. So we're really excited about that. One of the bills that myself and Rep. Entenman and Rep. Pat Sullivan have been working on for many years is the warehousing bill, also called SST, sales tax exemption, which allowed more money to come into Kent, as we are a large warehousing district. So I believe it was about $5.5 million that came into the city of Kent and some to Auburn as well for being part of the warehousing district. So that is a bill that I've been working on since I became a senator, and I've been working on it with Rep. Entenman and Representative Pat Sullivan, also Senator Kaiser, Representative Tina Orwell, and Representative Mia Gregerson, as we all represent Kent. So we've been working on it very diligently. Lots of legislators worked on it because it does affect other communities as well. And not only did we pass it, but we got it funded. So we're very excited about the wins and what that means for our community. Personally, you might know that I work on three really main issues. I work on housing and housing affordability just because of my background. I've been in the mortgage industry for 17 years. I work on the environment. I do have my MBA in sustainable business. So I do work on a lot of environmental issues, and I work on diversity and equity issues as well. As a caucus, we really focus on the economy and making sure our economy is strong. And good news, our economy is so strong in our state that we actually have quite a surplus. So we will be working on how to allocate that surplus to communities that need it in our state. Really excited about that. We really worked on making sure our small businesses were vibrant and strong. And I know in Kent, and Auburn and Covington, many of our small businesses have been the backbone for our community. So I want to thank everyone for all of their hard work. Obviously, with the COVID-19 crisis, we've been focusing on healthcare and jobs and making sure our community members are not only housed, but also have great employment. We will once again be focusing on COVID relief and recovery because we know that the COVID crisis is still very much amongst us, and that we are going to continually need to make sure our communities have the resources they need, not only for to fight COVID, to get vaccinated, to keep vaccines and boosters free for community, but also testing kits. So that's something that I just had a meeting with the governor a couple of days ago, and that's what we talked about a lot, was making sure people were able to have access to testing. I know it's hard to find tests. They are expensive, $20 or $30 often. So we want to make sure that we have testing and access to testing to make sure that if you feel that you have COVID, that you can go get a test and make sure. So that you can isolate and do all of the things that we want to do as good community members. Last year, we focused on continuing advocacy. I'm a member of the Transportation Committee. So we're working again with the new chair of Transportation, Senator Leas, who's a dear friend of mine, and also the vice chair, Senator Saldana, also a dear friend of mine. They will be heading the Transportation Committee, and we're very excited to work on a transportation package for our community. We have a lot of transportation projects that need to be funded, and I look forward to being part of that solution. Last year, I also passed a bill to make sure that 911 calls that were biased, that were meant to harm. Think about Chris Cooper in New York, what happened with him in that case. And so that bill passed. I'm very excited about it. Senator Carlisle very affectionately calls me the single-use plastics warrior in the Senate, and I wear that badge proudly. As many of you know, I don't have children, but I do have nephews that I care very deeply about. They're 5 and 8. And so everything that I do in the legislature is with them in mind to make sure our next generation isn't dealing with, plastic waste, right? One of the bills that I'm going to be talking about this year is called the Renew Recycling Act. It is a bill that will deal with packaging waste. The best way I can describe this is, we just had a holiday time. I was with my nephews and my family. There were 5 of us. And how much packaging waste was there, right? How much did it end up going in the landfill? In my family, that was 3 trash bags full that could not be recycled, could not be composted, and just had to go to the landfill. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How many bags of waste did your family have for the Christmas holiday or the Hanukkah holiday or the holiday season, right? And in my family, it was three trash bags that literally went to the landfill. So that's something that I'm really fighting for our future. If it is the packaging waste is a problem. If the packaging is not reusable, recyclable, or compostable, it's 2022 now. We have the technology. We have other packaging solutions. So we're going to ask our companies that are producing packaging and those companies that are buying packaging to stop making choices that are harmful to the environment. So that's a bill that I'm working on for this year. Back to last year, we really passed the Climate Commitment Act, which was amazing. Multi-year effort for that. The Clean Fuel Standard, the broadband expansion. I mean, one thing that COVID showed us was the haves and have-nots, right? Where kids had access to broadband because suddenly kids needed to go to school online, and many communities did not have access to broadband. I heard many stories of constituents who had to go to parking lots of the school or parking lots of the library just to get access to broadband. So we want to make sure that we put a lot of great investments into broadband access to make sure our kids and community members had reliable broadband. One bill that I'm particularly proud of that we passed as a legislature is the HEAL Act. It will help Washington State finally bring environmental and climate policy and practices in line with our environmental justice principles. So really excited about the HEAL Act. It's starting to be implemented and it's been really wonderful. I want to thank Senator Saldana for her leadership on that bill. We did complete our session in 2021 for the 4th year in a row on time, which has not been done since 1941. So I'm very excited that we did complete our session in 105 days. And I'm hopefully confident that we'll complete the session this year in 60 days. One of the things that was the sort of silver lining from the pandemic was that we had remote testimony, meaning you, the community members, could come and testify on any bill, whether you liked it or opposed it or wanted to add modifications. This allowed community members to participate, and it was 300% participation over the year before, an increase, because community members from Kent, Covington, Auburn, Renton, Spokane, Walla Walla could provide testimony without having to drive to Olympia. Oftentimes there's a time limit, so you're only able to testify for 90 seconds or 60 seconds. So to drive all the way to Olympia from, even from Kent, it's 50 minutes. For me, it takes me 55 minutes to get to Olympia. So to be able to testify remotely, that's a whole day, right? Driving down to Olympia. So I'm very excited that we'll be continuing the remote testimony. And we can have links on our Facebook page or here in this chat to tell you how to testify remotely and how to track bills and follow bills. One of the things that I realized as a new person to the legislative process, my first year, is how many things were barriers, things that I didn't understand before. Remote testimony, what does testimony mean? How do I follow a bill? Senator Nobles and I last year did a Facebook Live on how to track a bill, because these are things that affect us, right? What happens in the federal government doesn't affect our day-to-day for the most part, but what happens in the state legislature and even your city councils affects your day-to-day. So we want to make sure that we're accessible and bringing you along with us and learning with you, because it was all a learning experience for me. So I'm very excited to continue to make the legislature accessible. And if you have questions, please reach out to us. We're easy to find on the internet. We will put our Facebook links, our email address, our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from our community on how to continue to make things accessible. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll talk about the Q&A portion of this town hall. We'll start taking some questions that our neighbors have sent in, and members of my team will be asking the pre-submitted questions. So we've got Hannah, our wonderful Hannah Savio-Howell, who's been working on my team for the last 3 years now, 3 sessions. We're excited to have you back. We are very thrilled to have you as our Director of Communications. So go ahead, Hannah, and ask the first question.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator. As a quick reminder, folks, you can drop your questions or comments in the chat at any time, and we will add those to the queue. So up first from our pre-submitted questions, and sort of serving as an icebreaker because lots of people asked this, we have a question from Allie who wants to know, what is one of your very favorite highlights from 2021? And I know you talked a little bit about that, but what's sort of one big highlight, one takeaway from the year?
Yeah, I will say passing Bill 5022, it was such a huge effort between the business community, the environmental community, community members, to really tackle plastic packaging and waste. We banned styrofoam, which is, amazing. Styrofoam, if you don't know, is pretty toxic, especially if it's heated, which, heated coffee cups, or, I don't know about you all, but I was getting a lot of Uber Eats and a lot of food delivery to my place. And a lot of it comes in styrofoam packaging. Well, if it's really, really hot, it can actually melt the styrofoam. So to ban, first in the nation, we banned styrofoam coolers. We banned those styrofoam peanuts, which everybody hates. You get them in your packaging, which luckily I don't get that in my packaging. I haven't seen styrofoam peanuts in a while. Luckily, they go everywhere. First in the nation, we banned the lids, so it's on request. If you go to a fast food restaurant, they have to ask you if you want a straw. They have to ask you if you want condiments. They have to ask you if you want a lid. Those things aren't just, won't just come automatic anymore. So I'm really proud of that bill. We worked really, really hard. The governor signed that bill. This would probably be the highlight at the aquarium. He'd only signed, I think, 8 bills in person in the last 2 years. Our bill was one of them. And we sat and signed at the aquarium, which was just so amazing to be at, such a beautiful place, talking about wildlife and marine animals, and to be at the aquarium was really special. So that would definitely be a highlight.
Beautiful. Thank you. Up next, we have Erin from Renton. I'm going to put that person's question on the screen, who asked, what are your 2022 priorities? And in this upcoming year, what are you most excited about now?
Well, thank you for that great question. We're dropping bills this week. And what that means is that we're submitting bills to the legislature this week. So we've dropped a lot of bills. And we're really excited. We're getting a lot of press about our Homes for Washington bill, which is a bill about middle housing. And I'll tell you why that bill is important to me as one of, I think, 5 renters, maybe 6 renters in the whole legislature. Most of my colleagues have owned homes for 20, 30 years. So they don't remember what it's like to actually be a renter and be worried about your rent increasing. I was telling a story earlier today. I had a couple of panels that I was on. I had to renew my lease a couple of months ago. My lease was 51 pages long. 51 pages long. I mean, it's just absurd. As a mortgage broker, I mean, that's almost as long as a mortgage loan that you have to sign. 51 pages to rent a place. Just absolutely absurd. So this bill, and so somebody like me, I'm very open about, my rent. I have a 2-bedroom apartment in Kent. My rent is $1,600 a month, which is more than half of my Senate salary a month. Take-home pay goes to my rent. And that is absolutely not a unique experience. I know many of my constituents have told me that their rents are more than 50% of their wages. And that just stifles the economy. That means we can't go out to eat as much. It means we can't go shopping in our downtown corridors. It means that we can't, buy things for our families that are, sort of the nice to haves. It's only the necessary things. So this bill will create more multifamily housing for those folks in between, right? I can't afford a $500,000 house, but there's no condos in my district. There's no townhouses for me to buy. So I'm literally stuck. I cannot afford there's no place to rent that's cheaper that I've found. And of course, there's costs for moving and all of that. But I can't afford a $500,000 mortgage. As a mortgage broker, I know exactly what that mortgage is, and I can't afford it. So I am really, I have brought this bill, Hannah, every year since I've been in the legislature in some variation. And I will tell you, the cities are fighting it. They want local control. And the problem is local control isn't working. We are still in a housing crisis. There's no silver bullet. Last year, we were able to pass a very large bill called multifamily tax exemption, which gave an exemption for builders to build. But those are for apartments. Apartments keep people poor. Home ownership allows pathways out of poverty. It allows pathways into the middle class. It allows an opportunity for us to build wealth for our future generations, which has really been shut out for most Black and Brown people. And so I am really fighting for this bill this year. I am very excited to team up not only with Representative Bateman from Olympia, who has been fighting for these issues for a long time as well. She was an Olympia City Council member. We also teamed up with the governor this year. So the governor has realized that this is a way to help with the housing crisis, is to actually build more density. It's to build more housing near transit. It's more affordable housing options. And for me, it's building condos and townhouses so that we have an opportunity to be part of the equity gains of our region. So that's the Housing Homes for Washington bill. I'm very excited about my Green Amendments bill. We just dropped this one. I think it was today. It will be a constitutional amendment change. You as the voters will be, it's to bring the bill, to bring this constitutional amendment change to the voters. It is demanding that we have a right as people of Washington state to clean air, to clean water, to healthy, thriving communities. It is a constitutional guarantee for a toxic-free future for our children and our sentient beings and our loved ones. It is making the state more responsible for protecting that right. And just to preview, KNKX NPR is covering the story tomorrow morning. So you might hear me on NPR tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. I talked about this bill a little bit earlier, the Renew Recycling Act. That is to keep waste out of our landfills. Again, if it's not reusable, recyclable, or compostable in 2022, why are these companies continuing to manufacture it? And then guess what? We, as constituents, as consumers, as community members, have to figure out what to do with our packaging waste. I don't know why we have the burden when the packaging decisions are made by these companies and they can change their packaging decisions. So it really is asking them to stop making us have the burden of their packaging choices. So we got a hashtag. We're going to do memes about it. So I'd love to hear your opinion. Would you like the hashtag to be reduce waste, hashtag reduce waste, or would you like the hashtag to be hashtag make it green? So I have collected examples from my Christmas holiday of packaging, good packaging and bad packaging. So we're going to start posting those on our Facebook page and our other social media channels. So should we have the hashtag reduce waste or make it green. And we are going to highlight companies that are doing the right thing. I am giving huge shouts outs to Amazon. I got some packages. I was with my brother for a holiday. They have Amazon coming to their house almost every day, maybe multiple times a day. And the packaging was amazing. It literally said, please put this with your cardboard. Where you recycle cardboard, you can recycle this packaging. It was great. So Amazon, shout out to you, our local neighbor, happy about all the great things that you're doing. Thank you so much. I also want to shout out to other organizations. I just had a great call with a packaging manufacturer today. They're doing the right thing as well. So we're excited to highlight companies, organizations that are doing it right. And then, newsflash, if you're not doing it right, you might end up on our Facebook page too. So let us know if you like the hashtag reduce waste or make it green or keep it out of the landfill, or maybe you've got a great idea. We really want to have a hashtag and really highlight companies that are doing it great and give opportunities for improvement for companies who just aren't doing it well currently. This is really the sort of technical term for it is extended producer responsibility, or EPR. You might have heard in the somewhere, and it's taking that burden off consumers that I talked about. A bill that I introduced last year that's coming back again this year is the Toxic Beauty Act, which is to protect people, mostly women, right? The beauty industry is mostly geared towards women, to protect us from the harmful chemicals. This bill will require many chemicals that are being used in beauty products. That's makeup, that's lotions, that's shampoos, that kind of stuff, to remove those from the beauty industry. I will shout out to a company that I have discovered called Beauty Counter. They have a never list where there's, I think, 1,500 chemicals that they will never use in their products. That is kind of where I got this idea for a bill. They brought federal legislation, so I worked with them to work on this bill, also with the Toxics Free Coalition. So yeah, it's really exciting to that bill. Last year, every woman in the caucus signed on to the bill. So I'm hoping this year that every woman in the caucus will sign on to it as well. Rep Bateman is my partner in the House. So she'll be working with the representative, the women, to also sign on to the bill. So we're hoping to show the industry that women in the legislature are ready for some change in our beauty products. Also want to talk a little bit about the transportation products, transportation package that will equitably do some investment in our district. This is ongoing work, of course. And as I mentioned, new chair, Senator Leas, and Vice Chair, Senator Saldana, will be working very closely with them as part of because transportation is such a huge issue in my community. I wanted to make sure I was on the transportation committee so that I could have a seat at the table, making sure that we bring investments to Kent, Covington, Auburn, Renton, and Black Diamond. We've got lots of work that we're going to do on Highway 18. We've got the 167, 509. We've got lots of projects that will bring, hopefully, money to. So please come and testify. Please show support. We'd love to hear from you. So that's some of the bills that I'm working on. I think I've got 7 to 10 bills that I'll be working on this year, and that's some of the highlights.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Senator. We have a live question that was sort of a follow-up to your discussion of your Homes for WAB bill. So I wanted to put that on the screen and ask you if you wanted to address this. Michelle said, sorry, I missed the beginning of this, but I'm wanting to know if anyone's talking about the effects of corporations buying single-family homes. And what I will add to this question as well is, can you talk about where people can learn more about your policy?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Michelle, for the great question. We have talked about it. I have talked about it with the chair of housing, Senator Cooter, at length. We are looking into if we can do anything as a state. It seems to be only something that we can tackle on a federal level, but we are looking into it. It is causing a huge problem. Corporations are buying these homes. sitting on them, waiting for the value to go up. They're empty, and so that's not good for anyone, and especially for people who are trying to get into the housing market. Thank you for bringing it up. Stay tuned. We definitely know it's an issue. I don't know that we can do anything about it as a state, but whatever we can do, we are going to try.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next question is from John, who asked, how has the pandemic impacted the work you do? And you've talked about this a little bit, but will the legislature do a remote session again this year?
Yeah, because of the spike, the spike in COVID cases due to Omicron, we're going to be doing a hybrid session. So we'd already decided to do remote for all of our committee hearings. And then we were planning on doing voting on the floor in person. We are going to hold off on that. We're going to look at it every 2 weeks to see how the cases are. We want to keep our staff safe. We want to keep ourselves safe. And, last year we proved that we can do it remote. Like I said, we passed, I think, 334 bills remotely last year. So stay tuned. And I really hope that I can go back to Olympia. I'd really like to. So every 2 weeks, we're going to evaluate whether or not we feel the COVID cases are coming down. So stay tuned.
Great. Next up, we have a question from Maria, who asked, what's the number one thing you're hearing from community right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, as I'm out and about in the community, and taking phone calls and looking at the emails that we get, we want to rebuild, right? Like, we realize COVID has highlighted for us that things were broken. It was not working for all members of our community the way things were working. So I've always said COVID has given us a little bit of a silver lining where we have to rebuild a lot. So why don't we rebuild in a more equitable manner for all of our community members? So we really want to rebuild, recover, be stronger than before. We've shown how resilient we can be. I was laughing with a friend earlier today. I was talking to someone and I said, she said, oh, I think she said something about, oh, I got exposed to COVID and now I'm going to have to quarantine, but it's only for 10 days. And I laughed because I thought, my goodness, remember March of 2 years ago when we had to quarantine for 2 weeks and it was like the end of the world and we couldn't believe we had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And now here we are almost 2 years later and a 10-day quarantine doesn't seem like a big deal. So we have come far as a community and we are resilient. And I am so proud of community members, especially small businesses that have stood up, especially for nonprofit organizations that have kept us housed and fed. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you also to the teachers. Can we just have a huge shout out to our teachers that have once again shown that they can pivot time and time again to go to hybrid, to go back to in person, to go back to, I just thank you to the teachers from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to all the essential workers, especially our hospital, our healthcare staff, folks that have worked in the grocery store. These are thankless jobs. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you so much for all you've done to keep our economy going, keep our community members safe. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Another question that has been submitted live. This person actually preferred to remain anonymous, but their question I'll put on the screen, and they just asked, "What does being vice chair of the caucus mean, and what do you do in that role?"
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I am lucky to have a great partner. The chair of the caucus is Senator Hasagawa, who is our neighbor to the north. We share parts of Renton and parts of Kent. He's been a great mentor to me. Has been in the legislature for a long time, and so he's been wonderful. And I will also share that the chair and vice chair of the Senate and the chair and vice chair of the House, Representative Lillian Ortiz Self, is the chair, and Representative Milan Tai, who started the same time I did, is the vice chair. For the first time ever in the history of the legislature, the chair and vice chair for both caucuses, both sides of the rotunda, are all for folks of color, which has never happened before. So it's very exciting. The chair and the vice chair of the caucus, the chair leads the meetings, our caucus meetings. And so when Senator Hasagawa is unavailable, then I lead those meetings. We're able to influence policy. We're able to influence what comes to the floor for a vote. We're able to be, part of the leadership team, which means that we have a voice at the table when we make decisions on caucus priorities and what bills we're going to bring to the floor for votes. Great question.
Awesome. Up next, we have another live question. I'm going to put that on the screen. Viv from Auburn asked, what is the legislature's plan for addressing the issues with long-term care / the Washington CARES Act?
Well, thank you. That is such a great question. We really did pass a bold first in the nation policy. We found some areas that just needed some more work and some more adjustments. So the program has been paused. My own employer, so I mentioned I work in the mortgage industry. My own employer has, trying to figure out what to do about that. I will tell you, as a Senate, we are paused. I will tell you the majority caucus leader, Senator Andy Billig, is pausing in his own company that he runs. So the program has been paused. So there's been a little bit of unclarity about this. So if you're watching and you're a business owner, you can pause the program. You will not be penalized for it. As we figure it out, it's going to be one of the first things we take up. Just like I said, met with the governor and our caucus, and it's going to be a bill that we're going to work on very early in session. So within it, like I said, it's a top priority. It will happen early in session. We're prioritizing taking the time to make the policy better to serve our community. It's important to remember that the Washington CARES Act was driven by Washingtonians who want to age in place. It's designed to serve all of us and our aging loved ones. And I just turned 50 last year, so I definitely know aging in place is something that I want to have access to as I get older as well. Thank you for the great question. We have had a lot of emails about it, a lot of community concern, and we really do want to do it right. So we're just going to take a little bit of a pause and work on the policy.
Our next live question is from Satya from Kent, who asked, how can young people hear more about your work and what state legislators do? And how can we follow along and get involved and stay in touch with you?
Well, that is a great question. One of the things that I wanted to do as a legislator is bring people along, right? I was new, right? I had never served in city council or school board. I just went straight to the Senate and I didn't know anything. I mean, I had to learn a lot very quickly. And I want to shout out to my amazing legislative director, Chio Saturn, who worked for Senator Hasagawa for 4 years before she came and worked for me. So she knew everything. And so she taught me everything. And so I just shout out to Chio. I know she's watching tonight. Very grateful for her support, her service, and for teaching me how to be an effective legislator, how to pass bills. So what we really try to do is bring our young folks along. We have the most diverse legislature we've ever had in the history of Washington State. Many women of color and folks of color have been elected. It's been great to see ourselves reflected. I mean, that's my story of how I decided to run, was after seeing Congresswoman now, Pramila Jayapal, run for office and just see myself reflected in that. And, the fun follow-up story to that is until this year, I actually had Congresswoman Jayapal's office. Her office, Jack 230, was our office for the first 3 years. This year we are moving, so we're excited about a little bit of a bigger office space. But how your young people, thank you for the question. You can stay involved either on our Facebook page. We just launched our Instagram page. Hopefully, maybe we can do a TikTok page. I'd love to do my very first TikTok this year, of course, with the help of my very young millennial staff will hopefully help me do my first TikTok because I've never done one. I'm excited about it. Yeah, so please stay in touch with us on social media. That's the best way, I think, or you can reach out to our staff. We have we're really excited about our intern this year and our session aide. Onya is joining us as our intern from Evergreen College. And then Ivy is going to be returning. She was our intern a few years ago. She's returning as our session aide. So we are very excited to have an all women of color team. Very excited between Hannah, Howell, Sabio Howell, that is our comms director, and Chio Saturn. And we're very excited to bring some true representation to our district. You know, and I'll just say that Kent is one of the most diverse districts. Our district is one of the most diverse districts in the state. 148 languages are spoken in the Kent School District. So we're very excited to, you know, continue that that honor of serving and bringing that diverse voice to our legislature.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have another question from someone who also preferred to remain anonymous, but who asked a great how the legislature works question. So they asked, you mentioned being vice chair of a committee. How does being vice chair differ from being just a member of a committee?
Well, that's another great question. I love that you all are actually listening tonight. This is great. So as the chair of the committee, you decide which bills are heard. So that means, so for example, I'm dropping, I think, 8 to 10 bills. The next step is you can drop the bill, right? You can give it to the legislature for consideration. It gets assigned to a committee. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm on the Environment Committee, vice chair for the Housing Local Government Committee, and on the Transportation Committee. So I have bills that go to those committees and others. I've got a few bills going to other committees this year, one to healthcare. So that chair of the committee decides whether or not your bill is worthy of consideration for the legislature. And so as vice chair, I work with Senator Kruderer to decide what bills what we hear and how they move through the process. So being a vice chair, I also call up the testifiers, people that want to testify on the bill. I introduce them, welcome them to the Senate, and ask them to share their testimony. So that's part of the responsibilities that I have as vice chair. And if Patty, for some reason, well, you know, with the remote session last year, she actually, her internet went out one day, I believe, and so I you know, was able to pick up and run the meeting. So you know, if Patty is unavailable, then I run the meetings, and just having some influence on bills that we hear in committee. Great question.
Awesome. Next is another live question from Jamie from Auburn, who said that it sounds like not a lot of other states have tackled environmental protection quite like ours. Proud of Washington's leadership. What other environmental work is on the table in 2022?
Well, that's a great question. I think you said Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for being here. It's great to have such great questions. We are the leaders. I'll just say that. I did a lot of, I went to several conferences over the summer, and we are the leaders. I mean, people come up to me and they are so excited to use our legislation as a template for their states. This EPR bill that I mentioned, the Renew Act, 2 states have already passed it. Thank you, Maine. Thank you, Oregon, for going first. 9 states introduced the bill today. 9 other states. So that's 11 states that are introducing these, you know, groundbreaking package reduction bills. And, you know, shout out to the younger community, the Zennials or the Zoomers and the Millennials. Y'all are just saying enough. We don't want packaging waste. We are left with 5 plastic gyres in our world. You are asking companies to stop making packaging waste. Thank you. The consumers are deriving this conversation. I will tell you, the stakeholders that are coming to my meetings Keurig, one of the biggest polluters on the planet, Keurig is at the table. They have told me that they are developing biodegradable packaging. Excellent. Thank you, Keurig, right? Coca-Cola is there. American Beverage Association, which is all of the beverage manufacturers. Walmart is there. Large grocery stores are there. Kroger, Safeway, or Fred Meyer in our community. These are groundbreaking conversations that we're having. And it's not just the lobbyists that lobby in Washington State. This bill has got so much momentum that the main lobbyists that are coming are from DC because they know ours is going to be the model legislation. We've got the people that make glass, right? For a long time, we've been told that we can't mix clear and brown and green glass together. That's not true anymore. They've developed new recycling processes, especially in our state. So I am proud to be one of the leaders in the environmental movement in our state and frankly in the country because people are watching what we're doing and it's wonderful. 5022, the bill that I passed last year, is going to be model legislation for other states. I just fought the American Chemical, what's it called? ACC, American Chemistry Council. They were trying to make sure my bill wasn't model legislation. They tried to say that wasn't accurate, and that's not true. So we are fighting to make sure that our bill is model legislation for other states to follow. So it's an honor and a privilege to do this work and fight on behalf of the little man and the little woman and me, right? The little just fighting corporations left and right to make sure that we have a just economy and a sustainable and environmentally friendly economy for all, right? I mean, it's not about my kids. I don't have any, but I have two nephews, as I know you all know. My nephews are 5 and 8, and they drive me every day to make sure that I leave them a planet that is healthier than the one we have right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. So with about 10 minutes left, I just want to put in a little reminder to folks that if you would like to drop a question or comment in the chat, we would love to try to get to that before our hour's over. For now, we have a great question. It's pretty long, so I'm going to read it all. From Cal from Covington.
Okay.
Who asked, how does the budget process work this session? I've read articles about how last year was a big budget year. So is the legislature still going to make big investments this year? And can organizations still advocate to receive funding for their projects and services?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. So normally this is called the supplemental budget year where we don't, last year I think it was $59.2 billion with the B that we spent on investments because we got money from the federal government. We had a surplus. We had our rainy day fund, which thank you to the legislatures before me that started this rainy day fund. Most states don't have something like that. When I meet legislators from other states, they can't believe we have this rainy day fund. So we fared way better than many states. I'm very proud of that. This year, we have a large surplus again. So we will be, as the legislature, deciding do we sock that money away? Do we spend it? Do we invest it? So if you have an idea, if there is a project that you would like us to fund, you can make that request of our staff. I think Hannah can put in our email address into the chat. Please reach out to us. Let's have a meeting. Let's see. I love to fund community projects. I love to fund, a few years ago, I funded a youth homeless shelter in Auburn. That was great. We funded parks. We funded an organization called ICL. Oh, I'm going to forget their acronym, what it stands for, but it's a group in Kent that does racial equity work for young folks. Love to fund organizations like that. We are here to fund whatever we can. We're going to have a little bit of a budget surplus where we can fund some things for the community. So stay tuned. Please reach out to my team and we will get a meeting scheduled and we will evaluate if that's something that we can support. And we're really excited to bring money back to our community. I think I answered the question, right, Hannah?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's great.
good.
Thank you. Um, and we have so some folks have joined us throughout the call or throughout this town hall, and so we have a repeat question, but I think it's great to answer
Okay.
again for folks who haven't heard. So Hassan from Covington asked, "How can I follow along with your work this session?"
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you, Hassan. You know, we are pretty easy to find on the social media channels. We just had Hannah just started our Instagram page, which we're really excited about. We have our Facebook page. Stay tuned. I'm hoping to do a TikTok page. I want to do my very first TikTok. I'm very excited about it. So if you're a young person and you can help me with TikTok, that would be great. Asking for your help. Community, help me out. Get me into the 21st, get me into the TikTok age. My sister-in-law loves TikTok, so I want to be able to say I have a TikTok. So yeah, that would be, you can follow along. You can email us, you can call us, you can get in touch with us. We're hopefully easy to find, and if not, please let us know. We want to be easy to find.
All right. And with about 5 minutes left of the hour, I want to move on to closing remarks. So, if Senator, you have any final thoughts, things you want to talk about coming up this session, or things you didn't get to fully answer, go right ahead.
Well, thank you, Hannah, and thank you so much for all your hard work, and for Chio, and for Ivy, and for Anya. Thank you so much in advance. It's going to be a very busy 60-day session. I'm so excited about not only the bills that I'm bringing forth this year, but also the bills of my colleagues. Together, we really do cover a lot of topics, which is great. We work together as such a great team. Very excited about this session. Disappointed that we're not going to meet in person, at least for the first 2 weeks. So please get vaxxed and boosted so that, more community members are not spreading this Omicron variant. And I know that there's another one on the heels. I've heard, I forgot the name of it, but, please, Hannah will put links where you can get vaccinated and boosted so that we can get back to more in-person events. I am thrilled. I'm honored to be the senator for the 47th district. Such a beautiful, vibrant community with so many different cultures. As I mentioned earlier, 148 languages are spoken in the Kent School District. I'm just very honored and very excited to go back to Olympia and to make sure our community gets the resources that we need, not only in the transportation budget, but other community resources. I love working with Representative Entenman and Representative Pat Sullivan, who also represent the 47th district, but also Senator Kaiser and Representative Tina Orwell and Representative Mia Gregerson also represent Kent. And we've got other, Senator Hasagawa. We've got other folks that represent in Auburn, like Senator Claire Wilson. It's just an honor and a privilege to serve. It's an honor and a privilege to be at the table. It's an honor and a privilege to be a woman and a woman of color at the table, because those things have not been the case for very long. And I am just excited. I hope that you engage with us, show up to a hearing, watch a hearing. Everything will be on TVW. Sign up to testify. We did post something about how to testify, which Hannah can post that again if you do want to testify. I know people get nervous, but remember, it's just a Zoom call this year. We're people too. We'd love to hear from our community. I love to hear from community. We hear from the lobbyists a lot. So we'd love to hear from our community what's important to you. So I hope that we continue to be an open door for you and accessible. If you want to have a meeting with me, we prioritize meetings with constituents. So please reach out to us, and I'd love to meet with you.
All right. With that,
I guess I should end. Happy New Year to everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be your senator from the 47th district. I love serving the community. I love the job I get to do. I wake up excited to make a difference, and just thank you for the honor and privilege to serve, and please reach out to us. Happy New Year to everyone.